Hey, welcome back. Yvonne Wakefield's YouTube channel, where I read from my Babe in the Woods series. It's actually St. Patrick's Day today, and Henry and Zachary just had a bath, and they're wearing their St. Patrick's outfits today. We are going to go into chapter 4 tonight, which is about 7 pages. And I just want to recap. I'm going to put Henry down so he doesn't break his leg again. I want to recap chapter 3. So I'm in my 20s. In chapter 3, I went back up to the cabin after going to college in Eugene, Oregon. A friend came up at the cabin and said, "You want to go to this women's festival in the Redwood Forest?" Which I did, which was a catalyst in changing the direction of my life, because I met this illustrator who would trade me drawing lessons if I helped her build. Well, I was kind of bluffed how I could help build because I'd only built with logs before. I didn't really do a lot of linear measurements. But anyway, so we did this trade, and I ended up selling a trailer I had in Eugene, Oregon, and I moved to Mendocino, California. And if anybody's ever been there, it's a beautiful place right on the bluff. And so I lived in the back of my pickup truck with a little camper over it. And I would help her build from like 8 to 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and then I would draw. So I was basically living in the back of my pickup in the shadow of the Redwood Forest. And it was really gorsey. Gorsey is this kind of like shrub they have there. And it was maritime moisture, and it was fog, and I had bronchial issues, so my bronchial issues got worse. So we're going to go into chapter 4. It's called Holiday, and it's December, and I've been living in this back of the pickup truck for I don't know how long. So Leona's house was progressing along with my illustrative skills, both timed by daylight that took a westerly hike too soon after September turned into October. After work, if I wanted to read, write, or draw inside the camper shell, I had to light the Hurricane by 5 p.m. The Hurricane was this big, long, chimneyed kerosene lamp which put off a lot of fumes. By the damp month of December, I could not keep the hatch open to vent kerosene fumes because of the saturating fog. This meant either working by flashlight in the evenings or bedding down early under a pea soup blanket. Just before Christmas, the house was framed, paneled, and roofed. There was still finished carpentry to complete, but it was a holiday season and Leona left for Los Angeles. This left me alone in the stump meadow on Christmas Eve and destitution enough to negotiate hairpin turns in soggy, bluff-hugging mist to fulfill a vision of a hot restaurant meal in Mendocino. When I arrived, I discovered the seaside village dim, streets congested with low-lidded haze instead of rosy-nosed carolers. Even the usually effervescent Seagull Inn, where I imagined myself seated at a white cloth table, is closed. Left to my own devices, I walk along the boardwalk, then duck down side streets where pole lamps ensure I can find my way back to the truck. The Point Cabrillo lighthouse moans due north. Ocean waves churn and crash against the headlands. My wheezy breathing times my wandering pace. All of this pushes my holiday melancholy to the brink. I usually begin to dread Christmas at the approach of August. Now, facing this gloomy funk full on, I am playing a soul-sucking round of Poor Me, the solitary game of I don't have a family. When my family was alive, so was the holiday. There were cookies and fruitcake, presents ringed a Christmas tree that twinkled with tinsel and lights. Polished ornaments mirrored familiar festivity. After my parents died, the Grinch stole everything, including my comfort and joy in this holiday. Since then, I have enjoyed Christmas as a stray, invited into reveling families' home because I'd not one of my own, pitying do-goers dragged white elephants from upper closet shelves, dusted off, and regifted them so I wouldn't feel left out as others tore into name tag presents under a trimmed tree. I smiled and feigned delight from outside circles of good tidings as I unwrapped a used box of Avon perfume, a Santa-faced mug, or a cookbook inscribed, "For Joe, here's cooking at you, love Bev." Now my first Christmas in Mendocino, no one invites me to join them, not even a white elephant. A row of weather-beaten and restored Victorian homes line half a block beyond the village's seaside heart. Elegant burgundy drapes are tied back with golden tassels, and I can see classy dressed people inside house after house, laughing, eating, and drinking while I shiver and stare. I am an outsider looking in and playing the game of, there are people worse off than me. I remember hungry, lonely people, people without a warm bed, people suffering from flesh and bone-eating diseases, people all over the world who are worse off than me. I am all of these people, as they too are part of me. Still, I cannot wiggle out of feeling like a twisted Oliver Twist, nor do I want to lie curled in a pickup bed on Christmas Eve to rise to an equally dismal morning. I turn my back on those cheery frames and trail fog until I am beside my truck. Once inside, I start driving. The Datsun, remember I bought a Datsun 1600 series. If you remember them, they're little teeny trucks, but I love my Datsun. The Datsun makes it all the way to a 24-hour truck stop in Redding before the fuel gauge needles over red and the thermos is empty. The only person inside is a cashier openly drinking Budweiser in front of a sign advertising the same. "Wait a minute, fish pot'll be ready in a jish." The young man with two front teeth, dark as stubble on his chin, sets down his beer to fumble a paper filter, fill a glass pot with water, and pour it through the top of a humorless commercial coffee machine. I wait drip by drop for a refill. The cashier hums along as Silent Night pipes through racks of beef jerky, sunflower seeds, and sugar babies nestled in yellow cellophane jackets. His skin is cadaver-colored under the twitchy fluorescent lights, his facial capillaries as lit up as the neon sign behind him. With a final hiccup and hiss, the glass pot is filled, then emptied into my Looney Tunes thermos, one cherished possession the Grinch missed. Christmas Eve turns into Christmas dawn as I drive on, stopping only long enough at another 24-hour gas station to pee and top off the truck and thermos. The cashier in Lakeview returns my change with another Merry Christmas. But his good tiding is not slurred by Budweiser. His greeting is as sober as a reply that died along with my family. Deep down, I know a response is in order, but I cannot muster one. Uttering those two words back might crack the glue holding me together along a frozen asphalt artery where I hang on to the belief that I can outdistance the traction of my not belonging. Headlights bounce off snow berms, the only beacons of light in sight, until another sign reflects back a name, direction, soft drink, snack food, or some convenience so many miles away. I keep the radio off purposely, knowing only lachrymose carols will be courting the airways. The orchestral arrangement of engine whine, tire scrunch, and my coughing is harmony enough to keep me awake through a gray dawning. At sunrise, a state patrol car trails me. I hold my breath, waiting for flashing lights and to be pulled over for exceeding the limits of loneliness. When it passes in the left lane, I exhale in relief and think, maybe I should swerve and cause an accident. There's a small chance the officer would turn back to save me. Most likely, though, I'd end up stuck in a ditch, the patrol car miles beyond my attempt to solicit human interaction. Then I'd have to save myself again. Later, a Frito-Lay delivery truck whizzes by in the opposite lane. Poor guy, working on Christmas. At least he's getting paid. That's more than I'm getting as I watch the fuel needle fall. Normally it's an 11-hour drive, but I've been on the road a lot longer by the time I make it to John Day. The streets are as dead as the trapper and the city was named after, and I cruise through the town's only stoplight. Actually, the only stoplight in the entire county. It's not even turned on when I hang a right on the last stretch of an icy and slushy road that has slowed me down since wagon tire, a speck in the eye of a town. The final leg of road is under 3 feet of snow, no match for the Datsun. I park beside my other snowbound truck. Remember that big Ford truck I had, the green truck was parked there. Because I plan to stay at the cabin just a few days, I shoulder only a day pack, pouchy with tidbits, bucket truck stops along the way. The cabin is stocked with dry goods, oatmeal, powder milk, legumes, raisins, a fresh jar of Taster's Choice. That's instant coffee. And everything else I need except a needy cat. Remember, my cat ran away. I leave the emergency brake off so it doesn't freeze stuck and start walking. Each step recalls past seasons tramped, spring thaws melting into wildflower prisms and wavy emerald grasses. Summer's freshets, autumn's rusty plants, and winter's monochrome skies pulsing with lattices of naked branches. And snow erasing every landlocked cover except evergreen boughs. Each step pumps blood back into legs crumpled for hours under the dashboard. Now the forest hush serranes me in a place of piston precision. I take a shortcut over a ridge, knowing the snow will be deeper, but the distance shorter. By dead reckoning, I hike to the exact point where a barbed wire fence sags, a tried and true passage. I belly through this familiar opening by pushing one wire down with my foot and raising the other with my hand, like jawing open a giant anaconda's choppers. The knapsack snags on a steely fang, but I wiggle free and bolt upright at the sound of branches crackling. I'd encountered deer on the stretch before, but they merely coughed and sprinted high, snapping twigs in their primal retreat. Whatever is parting this forest now sounds dainty as a bullied elephant breaking free of Barnum and Bailey. When a brown horse explodes through an evergreen thicket followed by a resounding, "Motherfucker!" I know I'm home. It turns uphill when I wave my orange knapsack and kicks up snow along a canal dug by pig-tailed indentured servants over a century before. The horse is followed by my shouting brother. A rope is limp in his hand, his attempts at lassoing the horse as foiled as the rites of Chinese gold rush laborers. "Merry Christmas!" I holler back at my brother, really meaning it. Mark looks up, surprised as I am to find family in the wilderness on this holy day. Our only communication is through a mailbox on a county road. We never know who's coming or going unless one of us posts a letter or a note and the other by chance is in the vicinity to read it. The mailbox was empty when I checked it on the way up, so I assumed the mountain would be too. "Fucking horse!" My brother steams, his mustache dripping with condensation and snot, his nose red as the bandana tied around his neck. His brown cowboy hat is scuffed as his ice-tipped boots. In jeans and a matching denim jacket, he looks the part of the buckaroo. He is playing. I learned Mark has been living in the ratty old shack I lived in for a while when building my log cabin, and he invites me to join him for Christmas dinner he is preparing. Bacon a turkey. Stove so hot the place is like a sauna, he says through a snot sickle rimming his furred upper lip. Red vines, sugar babies, enervated coffee, and Dr. Pepper had sustained me on the road here and made any type of food seem more nourishing. Plus, sweating in a drafty, vermin-infested cabin with my brother sounded divine compared to cheering on the holiday alone in my log cabin, sucking on leftover licorice. It would be pitch black by the time I hiked back from that turkey dinner. But the moon would be nearly full. I was so sure because I'd chased it down the night before. There was still plenty of light left for me to prepare for the night ahead. The temperature is colder inside the cabin than outside. Even the newspaper next to the stove is too frigid to easily ignite with matches. I have to warm in my butt pocket before they'll strike. Eventually, I fan a peevish teepee tinder fire into a roaring flame that makes the stovepipe creak, and I hope there are no kerosene chunks clinging inside it to flare. I scuffle underneath the cabin to get water buckets. A wigwam of bark, sticks, and mushrooms reeking undeniably of pack rat mounds against 2 overturned pails. I pick them up by their handles and kick apart the pile, scattering the nest, surprised to see teeny blue china pieces of the child's tea set I keep on the windowsill inside of the cabin. Glinting in the middle of this dark mess is my silver baby spoon, Yvonne inscribed in the handle. 2 quarters and chewed pieces of aluminum foil. There's not a pack rat in sight. So this is literally the baby spoon I found in that pack rat pile. When I replaced it in the cabin, it was stolen again by pack rats, and a carpenter found it up in the rafters. It needs some polish. It's a lot of history. Maybe those pack rats enjoyed a high tea, left a tip, and like snowbirds headed for Arizona. I doubted it. From experience, I knew those stinkers would be back too soon and rebuild a nest bigger, more commodious, and reeking than the one I just busted up. I pocketed the quarters, reassembled a tea set on the bookshelf, and dropped the spoon in the sink. It is now warmer inside the cabin than outside, at least beside the fire that is ready to heat water. Icicles hang like fangs down the creek bank, and frosty petticoats skirt boulders. I scoop up 2 buckets of water, only a degree warmer than the snow, accidentally wetting my leather choppers and instantly changing the temperature of my hand to that of the creek. Inside the cabin, I throw the soaking mitten on the hot stove where it hisses and steams, flip it about, then set it behind the stove so it will dry while I prepare for the night ahead. I make sure enough firewood is stacked on the porch, with at least 1 fat chunk to bank the coals, then ensure kerosene lamps are arranged, mantles off, directly in reach of the door. When I return from dinner with Mark, I'll ignite those lamps with a match also strategically placed. The damp log used to bank the fire will be rolled over and embers stirred to cast more light on hot water bath that was only hours before running with ice. With everything at the ready, it is time to join a party I had only the night before watched in the company of fog. The post-solstice moon is bright enough that I can hike without a flashlight a half-mile slope I know by heart to this ramshackle relic I lived in briefly while building my cabin. With no foundation, the walls kind of wave instead of stand straight. There's so much viscaine stapled over the rafters, the plastic sheeting presents more of a fire hazard than a barrier against leaking elements. "Merry Christmas! Ho, ho, ho!" I yell from the door jamb, the groaning hinges 3 times older than me. Mark is sweating over a bowl, mashing potatoes, his face glistening from the heat of the cherry-hot wood-burning stove. A small Christmas tree, there are a gazillion of them growing like weeds on this mountainside, is propped up by rocks on the far end of the room. 6 surrounding kerosene lamps serving as decorations are as lit up as my brother. "Here!" He sets a thick crockery bowl of mashed potatoes on the counter and holds out a bottle. I take a swig and Jack Daniels instantly burns through the escalating cold in my chest. Every 20 minutes, Mark stokes the stove with 6-inch tamarack splits, the coals within the firebox brighter than my orange knapsack. I'm relaxing into the mellow glow of this family when Mark stands and spits on the cookstop stove. Timing the hiss of the saliva evaporating, he determines his bird is cooked. Using his sleeve as a hot pad, he pulls the pan from the oven, sets it on the counter, then jabs the breast with his buck knife. See? There's no pink. No chance of getting salmon vanilla poisoning. He points to a gash, wipes the buck knife across his jeans, folds, and returns it to his hip pocket. Just a minute, he goes outside and returns as quickly with a bottle of Mateus. We'd been drinking that brand for years before we were old enough to buy it. Our palates immediately developed a taste for the fizzy sweet. First time we pilfered a bottle and drank it on a golf course one Minnesota Christmas Eve 6 years past. The first holiday we could celebrate without our parents, dead as frozen in the ground beneath us. We could drink case after case of Mateus, and it would still not be enough to drown the sours we choke back. You got a corkscrew, Mark asks. Wait a second. I pull the Swiss Army knife out of my backpack, hold it up to the lamp, and unfold all the blades. Nope. Mark opens a drawer and pulls out a hammer and rusty spike. He taps into the cork. With a final smack, the cork is pushed inside the bottle, and the lip cracks. Careful you don't drink any glass, he says, brushing off green fragments with his sleeve. I reach up into the cupboard and dust off 2 lead crystal goblets, remnants of our mother's wedding trousseau, which have managed to make it safely out of heated storage to land, unbroken, on a shelf in this pestilent place. Merry Christmas, we say in unison, raise our brimming glasses of sparkling wine, and in the same beat, lower our eyes. Not because we are on the lookout for gut-piercing shards, but because the toast is a razor-sharp reminder of what we lost and we will never have again. A lifestyle with experiences once whole and bright. Now we are fragments of what is left of a familiar foundation. I'm sipping Mateus and thinking that maybe, just maybe, our parents are looking upon us with good tidings when out of the corner of my wandering eye I spy not 1, but 2 pack rats scuttling across the rafters. In the blink of an eye, Mark pulls out a pistol holstered on his hip under an open flannel shirt. A report sharp as breaking crystal cracks my eardrums, and Mark fires a second round. Fuck! Missed the bastards. He clicks on the safety and reholsters the gun I hadn't noticed. Nonchalantly, he rises, opens a cupboard drawer, and takes out a roll of duct tape and cotton batting. He stuffs cotton into 2 fresh bullet holes blasted into the sidewall, covering them with duct tape. The repair job matching 6 more festooning that end of the cabin. I'll paint it over it later, he says. I shrug my shoulders, my ears still ringing from that final and second report of what my brother is becoming. While the turkey cools and the mashed potatoes stay warm and the gravy bubbles on the stove, Mark climbs up in the ladder into the loft and returns with the box. Here. He holds it out to me. Sorrel Women's size 7. And what is printed on the outside of the box is true. 2 sizes, too big for me, the boots offer more insulation than the mink-oiled, bear-greased, and buttered size 5 Reikleys I wear through all seasons. With a couple of extra pairs of socks and cinched tight at my top, these boots are still a loose fit, but represent a true measure of what my brother can be. Was saving them for your birthday. Didn't expect you here for Christmas. Mark returns to the stove, turns potatoes, licks the masher, needs more butter. He peels the paper wrapping off an entire stick and throws it into the pot, unscrews the lid on a salt shaker and adds a hefty shot. Dark or light, he asks, hacking the bird apart with his buck knife, refusing to use our mother's silver-handled carving knife I've extended. There's a second bottle of Mateus, and thick brownish gravy begins to pour forth from a gilded china spout. I have 2 servings of potatoes, sculping each scoop into a cauldron where I imagine the giblets are Christmas elves doing the backstroke. Good gravy. I say to my brother. I think so too. Mark looks up from gnawing grease from the drumstick, slicking his mustache. Almost like Mom's, I add, which ends our satiated chatter. We assume a silence as we chew on memories reignited by the tink-tink of family china. Despite no parents to guide us through adolescence, we survived and retained some modicum of family values and some family possessions too, like the silver, crystal, and bone china plates poised on our denim-covered laps. That night, we eat until we are full, yet there are parts in each one of us that will remain internally empty. The aftermath of death scoured us to the core. When Mark finishes a third helping, he sets his plate on the counter, knife and fork perpendicular, the way our mother taught us. He stands, walks to the door, and before opening it, he says, "I've got a surprise." And he leaves. I'm heating wash water when he opens the door, his nose rosy from the cold outside. "Get your coat on." And like I was born to follow my older brother's every command, I trail him out into the night. The horse is tied to a tree and harnessed to a sleigh. Actually, it's a refrigerator door, spiked and wired into 2x4s that serve as sleigh runners. Built it so he can call his own hay. Haven't tried it out yet, though. Get on. I sit down on the metal door like I never questioned my brother's half-baked inventions. Have one for the road. Mark hands off half a pint of wild turkey from his jeans jacket pocket, then adjusts the makeshift rope harness. I take a sip, then another to feel the burn I'm hoping will kill what is ever eating my bronchi alive. It's not this clean mountain air, but the culmination of coastal fog and damp nights in a truck bed as frigid as the ice box door beneath my butt. Keeping his eyes glued to the horse's backside, one hand slack on the rope reins, Mark gropes for a seat. "Hang on," he says, not even twisting his neck to acknowledge his passenger. Instead of holding him around the waist, I grip his jacket pockets and feel awkward in more than one way plastered against his back. The last time I was this close to my brother was the night our mother died, and our shaky embrace was inspired by retching loss, not in anticipation of a ride like this. Mark throws a half-baked snowball overhand girly-like, but with all the force he can muster from his perch on the refrigerated door. The horse takes the blow and bolts, causing the sled to lurch. The 2x4s runners pierce the snow, and the lid up ends, spilling us into the snow. Holding tight to the rope, Mark is dragged like a rag doll up the slope, all the while screaming, "Whoa, you motherfucker, whoa!" as he body surfs into the snowy Yuletide night. All right, so that was chapter 4. When I could leave Mendocino, because I was a student there, I would, if I could get up to the cabin, I would go spend parts of the winters there in between school breaks. So we're going to go into chapter 5 and 6 probably next week. Yeah, because they're small. Anyway, hope you enjoyed tonight. And remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Buy the books if you want. Talk to people about it. And as always, stay hydrated. Bye-bye. See you next week.